The Asics Gel-Nimbus 26 and the Brooks Ghost Max. Two of the best examples of max-stacked, rockered daily trainers in early 2024, but which one is going to be right for you is going to come down to what do you like to run in. If there is a trend that is pretty clear this early in 2024 for running shoes, it's that the max-stacked, heavily rockered daily trainer is here to stay. We are going to see many more of them this year. It seems like every brand has previewed at least a couple models that fit into this category. But as of January 2024, the Asics Gel-Nimbus 26 and the Brooks Ghost Max are the two best examples of this category of shoe. As always, the best place to start when talking about these shoes is let's go over the specs quickly. With the Asics Gel-Nimbus 26, we have 41.5 millifoam in the heel, 33.5 millifoam in the forefoot, giving you an 8 mil drop. The 26 is a very minor update on the 25. The specs are fundamentally the same. The weight of the Gel-Nimbus 26 is 10.7 ounces or 305 grams for the standard US men's size 9 reference size that everyone uses, making this a bit of a heavy shoe in the standard size 9 US men's. But for a max stacked rocker daily trainer, honestly, the weight isn't that big of a problem. And when it's on your foot, you don't really notice it. Now, the midsole of the Gel-Nimbus 26 is full FF Blast plus Eco, and there is a pure gel insert in the heel. Only in the heel, there's nothing in the forefoot, so you're running on pure foam on the forefoot. And one of the biggest changes to the 26 over the 25 is that Asics has updated the rubber outsole, and they're calling it a hybrid Asics grip outsole, which just means it's a denser, better wearing rubber that gives you more grip over varied surfaces. Moving to the Brooks Ghost Max, we have 38 millifoam in the heel, 32 millifoam in the forefoot, giving you a 6 mil drop. Now the weight of the Ghost Max is 10.1 ounces or 286 grams, again in the standard US men's size 9 reference size. And while the Ghost Max is a lighter shoe, you don't really notice it on foot. There are differences on foot, and I'll get to that in the next section, but the weight is really, kind of the same between these two shoes, even though the Gel-Nimbus is obviously much heavier. On the Brooks Ghost Max, we have a full DNA Loft V2 midsole, which is Brooks's rubberized EVA. It's not a supercritical foam. It's just a rubberized airy EVA foam. And we have a technology called the Glide Roll Rocker geometry, which is something Brooks has developed specifically for the Ghost Max to help move the shoe off the toe much faster. Let's start with how these shoes fit and feel on foot. Now, I'm a US size 9, so I'm the reference size, and I'm going to say that the Gel-Nimbus 26 is a big shoe. It feels like a big shoe on foot, but it feels like a very plush experience. When you put your foot into this shoe, the upper is very well padded, the lockdown is good, the heel counter in the padding around the heel is very solid. It's a very soft and plush experience when you step into this shoe. Walking in the shoe, because of the gel insert in the heel, is very soft, very smooth. And then running in the shoe is not the softest experience. I can think of a softer foam. And honestly, this same foam, FF Blast plus Eco in the Asics Nova Blast 4, feels much softer to my foot. But as I talked about in my initial impressions of this shoe, I'll put a link in the description to that video, I think this full rubber outsole actually has a lot to do with this shoe feeling a little firmer. And I will say that this shoe also is a little firmer over the 25, but we'll get into how these run in a little bit. But the on-foot feel of this shoe is very plush, very soft, very well protective, and very well padded, which is what I think you would expect from a shoe of this class, a max stack rocker shoe meant for a lot of long, easy running. This shoe will eat up those miles. Moving to the Brooks Ghost Max, this shoe is still a very comfortable, very plush, very padded experience, though it is a bit smaller than the Gel-Nimbus 26, which is kind of crazy because there's still a lot of shoe here, but that tells you how big the Gel-Nimbus 26 actually is. Now, the step and feel of this shoe is still very plush, very comfortable. The ankle collar and the heel contour are still very padded, though there is considerably less padding in here than the Gel-Nimbus 26, but the tongue is much more padded, and I think the tongue in this shoe is much better than the Gel-Nimbus 26. But the overall fit on foot is just as comfortable. The lockdown is good. The slightly stiffer material in this upper, again, still wraps around your foot. This shoe just feels a little bit more nimble than the Gel-Nimbus 26. Some of that, I would say most of that, actually comes down to the foam and the geometry, but I'll get to that in the next section. But this shoe just feels a little smaller, a little bit more ready to get up and go than the Gel-Nimbus 26. But again, it's still a very well padded, very plush, very comfortable experience for all of that daily running. What is it like to run in both of these shoes? Well, these are both very plush, very comfortable, very stacked daily trainers, but they do run very differently. And that comes down to really two things: the foam, but also the geometry in both these shoes. And you can see when you compare these shoes next to each other, the rocker in the Ghost Max is much more aggressive than what it is in the Gel-Nimbus 26. So if we look at the Ghost Max, you can see that the rocker of the shoe starts much further back on the shoe, probably about here somewhere, about the 60% mark of the shoe, which makes this shoe much more aggressive. Meaning if you're a heel striker, you're going to engage the rocker of the shoe much sooner, so the turnover of the shoe is going to feel much faster. If you're a midfoot to forefoot striker, that means that this more aggressive, more rocker in the forefoot of the shoe is going to create a pocket for you to land on, which is going to feel very nice, very smooth. As a forefoot striker, this shoe feels really great. The glide roll technology in this shoe, which is what Brooks calls this rocker, is really done well. When I'm saying this is an aggressive shoe, it's not like a race shoe. It's just the turnover of the shoe is much faster because of this much more extreme and exaggerated rocker that starts further back on the shoe. Moving to the Asics Gel-Nimbus 26, you can see that the rocker in the shoe is much later in the shoe. It's probably about here, about the 75 to 80% mark of the shoe, which means if you're heel striking in the shoe, you're going to engage the rocker a little bit later in the shoe, which means the turnover is going to be a little bit slower. It's going to feel a little bit smoother. Now, if you're a midfoot or forefoot striker, honestly, this shoe feels kind of flat because you're landing right on sort of the pivot point of the rocker, and you're not really engaging anything in the rocker. It just sort of feels really flat when you land it. It's not the best feeling. This shoe is very much a heel striker's dream, but if you're a midfoot to forefoot striker, it still works. It's still very well cushioned. You're just not getting a lot of benefit of this rocker technology in this shoe. The other primary difference in how these shoes feel on foot and run is the foam. Now, in the Gel-Nimbus 26, we have Asics' FF Blast Plus Eco. The Eco on that means that this version of FF Blast Plus has 20% biomaterial in it. Now, to my feet, FF Blast Plus Eco runs a little firmer and much more consistent than just standard FF Blast Plus. In the Brooks, we have Brooks's DNA Loft V2 foam, which is a rubberized EVA foam, not a supercritical foam. It's just a good standard rubberized EVA foam. Now, the best way I can think of to describe the differences between these two foams is to use an analogy. If FF Blast Plus is like a brownie, it's dense, it's heavy. DNA Loft V2 is like a cake. It's light, it's fluffy, it's very airy. They're both delicious. They both satisfy you as a dessert, but they're very different, and you probably prefer one over the other. So what's the verdict here? Which is the one that I prefer? Well, for me, it's pretty black and white. It's easily the Brooks Ghost Max. I just find this shoe much more engaging to run in, much more fun to run in, and much more versatile for what I want this style of shoe to be. Like I said, it's more nimble, it's a little bit lighter, but the real differences are the rocker geometry being more aggressive and creating a nice pocket for me as a forefoot striker to land in, and rubberized EVA foam. I really have a soft spot for rubberized EVA foam when it's done right, and it's done very right in this shoe. And that's not to say that this isn't a good shoe. I actually really enjoy running in FF Blast Plus Eco. I've been running in the Nova Blast floor quite a bit, and I actually really love that shoe. but I just don't find this one as engaging as the Nova Blast. There's just something about this geometry. I think this rubber outsole and the way it sort of makes the FF Blast Plus Eco Foam in the shoe just feel that much firmer, that much harsher. To me, it doesn't really work. Though if you're a heavier runner, if you're a heel striker, I think this is probably the shoe you're going to prefer, because this denser brownie-like foam is going to give you much more literal cushion. And again, if you're a heel striker, I think this is probably one of the best heel striking shoes available on the market because of the denseness of this foam, but also you have the pure gel insert in the heel of the shoe, making heel striking this shoe very, very smooth. And that's not to say the Ghost Max is not a good heel striking shoe. Typically, the Ghost series from Brooks is a very solid heel striking option. So if you're a heel striker, this shoe is going to be very well cushioned. It's going to be very smooth. And like I said, because the rocker is further back in the shoe, you're going to engage that sooner. So this shoe is going to feel more aggressive. It's probably going to work for more types of running than the Gel-Nimbus 26. That's the beauty of both these shoes. They're both very good examples, probably the best two that are currently available of the Max Stack rockered shoe. But which one is going to really be right for you is going to come down to what you prefer. Do you like a more dense, more literal cushioning system? You're probably going to like the Gel-Nimbus 26. Or do you like a more airy, a little bit more flexible cushioning system? You're probably going to like the Ghost Max a little bit better. As I said, you can't go wrong with either one of these shoes. They're both exceptional for what they do and really the best in class for max stacked, heavily rockered shoes in early 2024. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. If you find this content useful, consider subscribing. You'll see more content from me pop up in your feed. If not, drop a like on this video because it helps this channel continue to grow, which I always appreciate. And with that, I'll catch you in the next one.